The police officer pulled over a car that had run a red light. To his surprise, the driver looked at him and said, "I'm the newly appointed police chief." The officer immediately saluted. The chief smiled and was about to drive away when the officer pressed his hand on the car window. "Excuse me, could you please show me your driver's license?" The scene then shifted to the police station where the officer's superior was scolding him. "The chief's first day on the job, and you give him a ticket? Do you even want to keep your job?" But the officer insisted he was right, even though his stubbornness had already gotten him transferred from the criminal investigation unit to the traffic police. Soon, the officer was called to the chief's office. He thought he was in for another scolding, but instead the chief smiled at him and said he had an important mission for him. It turned out that the city's security had been deteriorating, with several bank robberies reported, leading to public complaints about police negligence. The newly appointed chief wanted to conduct a bank robbery drill and have it broadcast live on television to show the citizens how professional the police department was under his leadership. And who better to play the robber than the officer who had given him a ticket on his first day? The officer, who was always straightforward in his work, accepted the note that said "robber" on it and quietly said, "You'll regret this." The chief smiled and said, "Do your job well, that's all I ask." The officer, known for his single-minded approach, began his preparations. He borrowed tapes of crime movies and took diligent notes. He then went to the bank to scout the location, checking the surveillance and every detail. On the day of the drill, the other participants didn't take it seriously, treating it like a large-scale role-playing game. But soon, the fully armed robber walked into the bank. He opened his passbook, which read, "Do not panic, do not make a sound. Put all the 10,000 yuan bills in this bag." But the bank teller immediately pressed the alarm. The robber, undeterred, pulled out another passbook that said, "I knew you would do that. Now put the money in the bag right away." At that moment, an undercover officer who had been waiting nearby approached, pretending to conduct business. But the robber, with just a glance, saw the gun holstered at his waist. The undercover officer was stunned. Was he already out of the game? The robber pointed his gun at the crowd and shouted, "Nobody move." He then rushed at the security guard, took his gun, and yelled for everyone to raise their hands. The undercover officer thought it was just a drill. Why be so serious? The robber glanced at his watch. It was 4:20. The police would arrive in 4 minutes and 20 seconds. He had to speed things up. Meanwhile, the chief happily ordered his team to set off and notified all the local TV stations. This was his moment to shine. He first called the robber, telling him to be more convincing and to hold on a bit longer because the TV crew hadn't arrived yet. But he warned that the SWAT team would be there in 30 minutes and not to get caught. What he didn't expect was that the robber was a very meticulous person. If he was told to be convincing, he would be extremely convincing. At that moment, another undercover officer in the bank stood up and noticed a problem. With so many hostages and only one robber, how could the robber tie them all up? The robber looked puzzled and said, "I didn't tie you up. Rep, you did it yourself." The undercover officer then realized that he had been the one doing all the tying, explaining the soreness in his shoulders. Meanwhile, outside the bank, the chief suddenly noticed that the bank gate was slowly closing and all the surveillance cameras were blocked by the robber. They had completely lost control of the situation. Inside the bank, the chief was stunned and quickly called the robber, saying it was just a drill and there was no need to be so convincing. But the robber replied, "A normal robber would do this," and then said he wouldn't answer any more calls. The chief was in a panic. He suddenly realized that the situation seemed to be slipping out of his control.